loved it. I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
And welcome back to Dirty Little Horror Queers. We're talking end-of-year dances, we're talking power drills, and we're talking Australia. I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace. And I think you just went a little Medea for a minute with Australia.
Well, basically, Australia, all they do is add R's to every word. So.
Well, I think we have a guest who might take you to task for that. So yes, I'm Trace, and we're talking Australian horror and some real batshit. Oh, and also week 2 of our Femme Fatale month. Wait, no. Week 3, 4.
No.
Week 4. We're recording out of order. Okay, let me try that again. Also, it is week 4 and our final week of Femme Fatale month with Sean Byrne's The Loved Ones. But before we get to the film, I feel like we should introduce our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, queers and non-queers, you know them as the hosts of the Dirty Little Horror podcast. Please welcome Christopher Downs and Charles Rockhill.
Hello.
Hello. I feel it's my duty at this point to say g'day.
Mate? No mate?
There's a rule about mate that is a little known outside of Australia.
It's my favorite rule.
It is Charles's favorite rule. I won't use the word because this is a family podcast. But
Wait, no, it's not.
Is it?
there's okay. So you guys know the C word, right?
Cunt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He literally started an episode using that word a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Fuck. Awesome. I'm happy. Okay, so in Australia, we switch around the word mate and the word cunt. If someone is your friend, you say, g'day, cunt. And if you're mad at someone or you hate someone, you're more inclined to spit at them, watch it, mate.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, at any given time, we'll just switch those words around and not tell you.
Okay. So if you call us that during this recording, I'd be fine with it anyway. Yeah, cunt's like, it's one of my favorite words, but it's not super kosher in the States to use.
Yep.
But I still use it.
Yeah, you go.
No, it's your story, Chris. I was going to tell your story, so you tell it.
The story of the person who tried to tell me they were going to try and make me say it less.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, you are pushing shit uphill, mate. That is not going to work.
Oh, you called them mate.
I did, and I meant it.
Oh.
The sick burn.
Cool. Thanks for coming on the podcast to talk about Australian horror, because honestly, I was looking through, just Australian horror cinema, and I feel like the Australians have made a lot of really awesome horror movies since 2000. I mean, this one comes to mind, and basically anything Greg McLean does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we get to take credit for anything James Wan has done as well?
I will say yes.
Yeah. In that case, we have been prolific.
I know. And Furious 7, which is one of the better sequels of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah, I was going to say, Australia's also got a bunch of really shitty, big-budget Hollywood action films, but it's mostly because you guys have really good FX work down there.
Yes, and for a long period, just shit-hot taxes.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, hello, British Commonwealth. All we do is give away things and act like we're not colonialists. Ugh,
Right.
Colonialists.
Do we Americans film a lot over there?
Yes.
Oh, news to me. Fuck.
Scooby-Doo 1 and 2.
Oh, I did know that. I did know that. I listened to the cast commentary of that first Scooby-Doo movie, which is delightful.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar hates Australia.
And I have not forgiven her for that. Oh, because
The bugs.
Literally. She was like, it's really hot. And they're like, that's the mosquitoes. Like, yeah, bitch, you're by the coast in a tropical country.
No shade, but honestly, Australia's probably the one place I don't ever have a desire to visit because of all the deadly animals that are there. I've seen too many creature features that I've just been like, not for me.
God, you're so dramatic.
No, look, I want to be offended by you not wanting to go to Australia, but honestly, I spent a lifetime shaking my shoes out before I put them on to get bugs and snakes out of them. So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks very pretty, and I will appreciate from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
But yeah, so as we mentioned, we are covering The Loved Ones, directed by Sean Byrne. I was going to tell y'all when it was released.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And I will, if I can read my notes, because they're so tiny, because I have 3 different release dates. Yeah, no, it premiered at TIFF. So, Joe, you actually would have had first access to this. Were you going to TIFF in 2009?
I don't think I lived in Toronto at that point, so no.
Oh, I just assumed you always lived in Toronto because I just assumed Toronto was like all of Canada.
Oh my god, you fucking American.
No, I agree with that.
Hey,
Yes,
hey.
as the two Americans would say.
Now
Chris,
that's-
it's going to be you and me versus them, okay?
Yeah, that's not fair. There's more to Canada than just Toronto. There's the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Duh.
No, he went to Fantasia a couple weeks ago and he was like, it's in Montreal. And I was like, is that not like 20 minutes away from where you live?
Yes.
I thought it was.
It's just like how Trace is constantly vacationing, over in Florida, in Key West or something, because those are like next to each other or something, aren't they?
It's actually only a 10-hour drive to get to Florida. It's not that bad. And 6 of those hours are from Austin are in Texas. In Texas.
I'm still convinced that Australia is only the size of Texas, and Chris can't convince me otherwise.
God.
The countries are the same width, you dickhead.
Chris, doesn't this make you worry about the status of the U.S. education system?
This adds to the pile of things that make me worry about the American education system.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of issues, specifically with our sex education system.
Yeah.
I can't back up the education system at all, but I can tell you that I'm definitely wrong about the size of most places because of where I learned things. So,
And the size of most things, apparently, too.
oh yeah, definitely.
Well, you also live on a tiny island that has like a greater population than most states, I think. So,
Yes, I have told Chris this multiple times. As someone who's born and raised in New York, we hate New Jersey for no reason.
right.
And as someone who was born and raised in America, we hate France for no reason. Like, that's just a thing. I don't know why. Can anyone confirm that with me? Nope, no
Freedom
one's gonna back me up.
fries
Got
or
it.
some shit.
Yeah, I don't know much about France, to be honest. I've never been to France, so. Okay, so, yes, I'm sorry. Back to my
Are we
release
still
dates.
doing this?
I know, we're
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about
that's
a movie.
right. There's a movie. Yeah.
I know. But yes, so premiered September 13th, 2009 at TIFF before getting an actual release over a year later, November 4th, 2010 in Australia, but it didn't get a release in the States until June 1st, 2012. And it was like a co-distribution deal between Paramount and Tug. Do y'all know what Tug is?
No.
No.
Tug is basically Joe, Jenny works for Tug, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But it's basically I don't want to call it a system. It's like a company where if a movie doesn't have distribution, you can go to them and say, hey, can you screen this movie in my hometown? And you basically have to get, X amount of people to prepay for a ticket. And if you hit your goal, they will screen the movie near you. If they don't, then everyone gets their money back. But I only know what it is because when Bait 3D was coming out, like back in 2012, 2013, which also it's Australian and stars Xavier Samuel as well. I tried to make it happen in Austin, and I did not get anyone agree to go see this Sharks in a Grocery Store movie.
Which the premise of the
Sidebar,
movie?
why are we not covering that movie? No.
I will watch any movie with sharks in it.
No, me too. I mean, it's actually pretty good. It's basically a tsunami. It has Julie McMahon from Nip Tuck and Nip Tuck, and it's basically a tsunami. Oh, and Charlie Vinson's in it too. But a tsunami hits this small Australian town, and it floods a grocery store, and it traps people inside with great white sharks.
But they're all of them are Australian, are they not?
Yes, Julian McMahon is the son of an Australian Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he's in it, I might actually watch that one.
Yay.
It's solid. It needs a bigger body count. Not enough people die, but it's better than it has any right to be.
So just to go back to Tug, this is like if Kickstarter and Groupon had a baby in reverse?
Yes, kind of
Yikes.
like that.
Wow.
I can't imagine that doing particularly well, though.
I mean, I don't think it did,
So Bait is essentially Sharknado in a grocery store.
but like taking itself much more seriously and has better effects.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank God.
Like, I mean, it has like a kind of a sense of humor, but it's more in the vein of like Crawl than it is Piranha.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so this was made for 4 million, I think, Australian dollars, not
Yes.
American dollars.
Yeah.
And yeah, runtime of 84 minutes with credits, 79 without. That the unrated cut, I think, is like 25 seconds longer than the American cut. Most of the unrated footage is the drill sequence, unsurprisingly.
Oh, yeah.
And then I don't really have any box office information, Joe, so you might have to help me out. But I have the Australian gross of $254,710.
Yeah. That's basically it.
Oh, so it didn't do very well.
I mean,
No.
I don't have whatever it made in America. I do not know.
Oh, okay.
I think it was in so few sites that it barely even made a blip, which is like why there's no box office info at all.
I'm trying to think of how I saw it, because I saw this probably in 2014, 2015, so 2 or 3 years after it came out, but I don't remember how I saw it.
Had you two heard of this before now?
I had heard of it. I think in passing in 2012, I may have even been like, oh, I want to see that. Otherwise, nope.
No, and when it was suggested by you guys for this episode, my brain immediately went to the movie Heavenly Creatures with Kate Winslet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
I don't
actually
know
New
why.
Zealand, though.
Yeah, I know. Like when I thought Loved Ones, I was like, oh yeah, that movie with Kate Winslet where they kill that girl's mom. Got it.
It almost would have been a real big fuck you, though, because that's New Zealand. That's not even
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter Jackson. My bad.
Oh, wait, so this is the first time watch for both of you?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just assumed that y'all had seen it.
Nope.
And I'm very happy that this is the movie that we watched because this movie is fucking awesome.
It's a little bit more exciting than Heavenly Creatures. I love Heavenly Creatures, but it's not what I would call like a fun watch.
No. It's very dramatic.
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, so before we get into Joe's little plot summary, just some real quick reception here. Rotten Tomatoes score of 98%, which I was shocked by. And an
It's
average
had like universally good reviews.
yeah, and an average score of 7.24 out of 10. So I mean, you're looking at a lot of 3.5s out of 5s in these reviews, which coincidentally enough is exactly what I gave it.
Mhm.
And then audiences gave it a 74%, which with an average score of 3.7 out of 5, which also tracks. No Metacritic score, but a user Metacritic score of 8.6 out of 10. And again, I mean, would y'all call this a crowd pleaser?
I personally wouldn't. I am baffled by the universal praise of this movie. I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe my inherent Australianness might have something to do with it. There is a lot of cultural cringe to contend with. But
Oh.
it doesn't strike me as crowd-pleasing. If anything, it strikes me as crowd-annoying. But everyone seems to love it, so what the fuck do I know?
Wait. Okay, wait. Put that in your pocket. We're going to come back to that.
Deal.
Because I'm mighty curious. No, because, I mean, when I listen to y'all's show, I tend to disagree with you more.
Nice.
As do I. Great. I'm on your
Yes.
side.
I think
It makes for better drama.
Well, and you and Joe might be on more equal footing though, because I just imagine y'all like your inner souls are like grumpy old men.
Oh my god, this is Trace bringing out the ageism. So Trace is a junior baby gay who just turned 30. So Chris, he's gonna think that you and I are basically like 1 foot in the grave old men.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware. The episode I listened to today of your show was the Final Destination one. Where you kept saying like, "Oh, I was 11 when the show came out," and I was like, "Fuck you, I was 20."
Yeah, exactly. And then we get comments from people who are like, I'm 45. Can all of you shut the fuck up?
Yeah. Christopher is constantly age shamed on our own show by me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But wait, Charles, how old are you?
I would like to go on the record as saying 25.
And I will go on the record and correct him and say that he is 33.
And Christopher is a lying little bitch.
Duly noted.
And here I thought a lady never tells her age.
A lady lies. A lady lies about her age.
Old ladies don't tell their age.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so people love this movie. Christopher does not, and this is the directorial debut of Sean Byrne, who also wrote it. The only movie he's done since this is The Devil's Candy, which also one of those movies that has had a very troubled release history. Also about 79 minutes long.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Short
and it's
and sweet.
really, really good. But the festival cut was 90 minutes, and when the Blu-ray finally got released, I want to say last year, maybe 2 years ago, it was cut down to 79 minutes.
Yee.
So we're not talking about that movie, but if you haven't seen it, it's very, very good. I don't think I prefer it to this one, but it's a metal horror movie, so it's like Ethan Embry and
Shiri Appleby.
Shiri Appleby. There you go.
And Ethan Embry is like jacked and hot as fuck and shirtless most of the time.
He
So,
is
just
jacked,
saying that.
but he has long hair, and long hair isn't my cup of tea.
I need to find out where to stream that immediately.
Yeah, no, I mean it's really it's a real creepy and good movie. Like it's not. Because I would call the loved ones very queer, even though there's not any outright queer content in it, but I feel like it has a lot of things that attract queer viewers. Devil's Candy isn't the same. It's more of like a straightforward horror, possession, serial killer film. Super good, though. Anyway, not talking about it. So, Joe, what is this movie about?
All right, here we go. Australian names. After 3 weeks of somewhat tricky names, I'm ready for Australia. Okay.
Yeah, we really went into a lot of foreign films with Femme Fatale Month.
This is true. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, learning to drive, Brent, Xavier Samuel, swerves to miss something on the road and accidentally kills his father in a car crash. Flash forward 6 months. Brent is withdrawn, mildly suicidal, and has begun self-harming. He is sexually active with his girlfriend Holly, Victoria Thane, and dawdled on by his mom, Carla, Susie Duggarty.
Did you say dotted on?
Yes.
Doted.
Doted?
Doted on.
Why do I have in my notes... Wait, I don't even have dotted. I have dawdled.
The fuck is that, Joe?
That sounds filthy.
I need to stop using Notepad because it just like autocorrects. And then when I go to read these half the time, I'm like, why did I write this? Did Drunk me write this?
I was saying, he's also like not really doted on by his mother. Their relationship is very like not amiable.
Well, she, I think, is worried that he's going to do something because she's already lost one family member, but her nurturing smotheringness is effectively driving him away.
Well, I was going to say, though, I was on this rewatch, I forgot how, I want to say how long it takes to get to the kidnapping, because it's about...
It's almost the first act.
Yeah, I mean, it is 24 minutes-ish into this 84-minute movie, and I kind of appreciated how much time Byrne gives for the emotional, like, lives of these characters.
Yeah, he sets it up.
Yeah, it's a good payoff, I think.
Okay. On the night of the end of the year school dance, he is propositioned by awkward schoolmate Lola Stone, a.k.a. Princess, Robin McLeavy. After he turns her down, his dog is stabbed and he is abducted by her father, Daddy, John Brumpton. Daddy delivers Brent to an obsessed Lola, who dresses only in pink and has a deeply uncomfortable sexual relationship with her father. Brent is tied to a chair, decked out in a tux, and forced to endure a dinner with Lola, Daddy, and Bright Eyes, and Scott Pendlebury, a woman who has been lobotomized from a drill to the forehead. Then the torture begins. After being injected with something?
Bleach.
Is it bleach?
Yeah, it's bleach.
Okay. All I saw was a water bottle, and I was like, I think I know what that is, but I'm not sure.
Well, the Wikipedia says bleach, so I'm going to say it's bleach.
Ah, yes. Wikipedia never lies.
Yeah, that's the only way I knew what it was too, was reading about it afterwards.
I mean, I think the bottle is blue, so yeah, it's a safe inference.
I think I assumed it was window cleaner when I saw that it was blue, but, I mean...
Well, he has a very nasty reaction to it, but it also doesn't do anything to him long term. Like, typically if you ingest bleach, you're kind of fucked.
Well, is his voice permanently gone?
We are meant to assume so.
Yeah, he doesn't speak for the rest of the movie.
Well, I know that. I just didn't know if like it was ever gonna like get better. Because spoiler alert, because we're spoiling this movie. He doesn't die. He makes it to the end. Yay!
Woo.
Well, I'm not sure what bleach would actually do to vocal cords besides, I mean, harm them in the moment. But would it actually like dissolve them or burn them so much that you wouldn't be able to ever speak again?
I don't know.
Yeah.
One of you have to Google that because I am a question editor for a TV game show. My Google search history has already put me on enough government lists.
I can't even fly anymore.
Nope.
I thought you were going to say, okay, well, one of you has to try that. And I was like, I'm not volunteering for that
Jesus
shit.
fucking Christ. Okay.
Find yourself a small child or an animal and report back with the results.
No animals, only small children. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Right. Yes. We talked about this.
Deal.
Okay. So he is injected with bleach. Lola threatens to nail his penis to the chair. And after a brief escape, Daddy hammers knives into his feet. Lola then shows him her scrapbook of victims. Kier, Duncan, Rise, and Timmy, who is the boy from the opening sequence on the road, before she begins to draw, in quotation marks, a heart on his chest with a fork. After a slow dance in which Lola admits she's searching for a king just like her father, they open a trapdoor to reveal something is alive below. Lola excitedly performs her first drilling on Brent, but before the horrific procedure can be completed, Brent manages to slice Daddy's face with his razor necklace, stab him repeatedly in the neck, and knock him into the hole. Did someone want to say something?
Well, I was just okay. I know that the drill sequence is like the centerpiece of this movie. I forgot it happened. So,
oh my God, how do you forget that?
Well, okay, as we've discussed, so like a lot of these movies like that I was watching in like 2013 to 2014, like it's my early 20s, or maybe early to mid 20s. I was probably drunk the first time I watched this.
Blackout drunk.
Not blackout drunk, but I definitely didn't like. Basically, I just remembered the end of this movie because I remember being pissed off that we don't get to see her head get squished. And I still feel that way to this day. And it's so funny because the poster, the cover of the box is Lola holding the drill. I just forgot what she did with it.
Yeah, the cover art of movies never. I don't pay enough attention to them either to allow them to inform me what's going to happen in the movie, because I saw the drill as well, but not until she was actively drilling was I like, oh, that drill's not of any importance, it's just a cool poster. Because I'm an idiot.
And I will say it's probably one of the most effective scenes of torture I've ever seen in any horror film ever. I don't think anything like that's been done before.
Hostile?
Well, no, but not in your skull.
Yes, typically we see it into like legs and hands and shoulders and other fun appendages.
Hostile gross me out in a way that you're like, ugh, and you either turn away if you're that kind of person, or you're just like, that's fucking gross. This made me uncomfortable in a at the dentist kind of way.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's funny? We actually covered Hostel for our third episode, and it's surprisingly, like, it's not quite as gory as you remember it being. They actually cut away from most of the money shots.
Kind of like this.
Yeah, the second one is not the case. The second one shows everything, but the second one's a better movie. But yeah, so yeah, I agree with you on this, though. And even this one, because you don't see the drill really going, because it's like an over the shoulder shot of the drill actually entering his skull, but then there's that CGI smoke that comes off the drill.
And they blend together the sound of the drill and his bleached vocal cord screaming.
Mm-hmm. It's very effective.
Who among us watched the unrated versus the regular version? Because I watched the regular version.
No, I watched the unrated version.
Yeah,
I think
here.
Mine is the regular one because it is shorter.
Christopher made me aware of the unrated version after I'd already downloaded the regular version. And I was like, I'm not doing two.
I mean, it's like 25 seconds. I don't think that the drill scene is that much more graphic. I mean, or maybe they just, I mean, I don't know.
I think they just hold on it for longer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel longer, but it's not like it shows necessarily anything that's much more graphic.
Yeah. Okay, Brent nearly bests Lola, but she tosses him into the pit with her previous victims, who are both still alive and very cannibalistic.
Tim is not in there, right? Tim just escaped.
Yes.
Yep.
And no one knows where he is.
No. I feel like we're meant to assume that he's probably dead in the outback somewhere.
Yeah, because she says that as well. He's probably dead by now. And from both a filmmaking point of view and just like the general story, I assumed we're supposed to accept that as read.
And I think I'd be okay with that if Mia wasn't revealed to be his sister. Because that's kind of brought up as like a subplot. Because I was texting Joe when we were watching. I was like, I don't know why they keep cutting to this couple. Like, I know it's comic relief, but like, what purpose does it serve?
So fucking annoying.
No, put a pause on that. We're going to save that because that I think is a whole thing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Brent is eventually forced to kill them all with a hammer, while up above, a despondent Lola suffocates Bright Eyes, who is revealed to be her mother, in a scene that is cross-cut with the film's other characters being unable to sleep. Girlfriend Holly, because she's still in this movie...
I love her, though.
remembers that Lola propositioned Brent, which prompts the sheriff, Andrew S. Gilbert, and I don't know if sheriff is the right term because sometimes that's not what they're called in different countries, so apologies if uniformed officers are not called sheriffs or policemen or whatever. The sheriff drives out to Lola's home, where he is immediately killed. Lola threatens Brent's mother and Holly, but fails to shut the trapdoor when she leaves, allowing Brent to use the skeletal remains to escape. Lola happens upon Holly on the road, and the two fight, but Brent eventually catches up and runs Lola down with the cop car. Although she is See, autocorrect. Although she is barely broken, no, autocorrect. That is not true. She is totally fucked up. So Lola is totally fucked up, but not dead, which prompts
That's so
Brent...
much more eloquent. I love that.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So this prompts Brent to back up over her in the car in slow motion. The film ends as he and Holly go home to his worried mother. Also, Brent's best friend Jamie, Richard Wilson, takes goth girl Mia, Jessica McNamee, Jessica McNamee, to the dance where they rock out, smoke up, get kicked out of the gym, and then have sex in the back of the car. And yes, she is revealed to be Tim, the victim's sister, which is why she is fucked up. And we will get there.
But there's not really much more to it than that.
There is.
Okay.
I mean, we can start there if that's where you folks would like to start.
I would like to start there because I would like you to try and convince me that they haven't completely fucking wasted Jessica McNamee, who is a tremendous actor who has in the last... So I didn't know who she was in 2017, but since 2017, I have seen her play 1950s bigoted tennis champion Margaret Court, Jason Statham's ex-wife.
What?
What's that from?
In The Meg.
Oh, that's not a good movie, but they're good for her.
Right. An asshole's cool, likable sister in, you know that Hulu anthology horror movies?
In the Dark?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Just Fucking With You. She's in that.
Okay.
And I bloody love her because even though she's in, as I've just listed, mostly trash, I love her. And I think she is wasted in this. Admittedly, this was filmed 10 years ago, so maybe not everyone knew what a gem she was yet, but still.
Also, Mia in this movie is like my spirit animal.
Because she's a broken little goth girl?
Yes, that's me.
That's literally Charles. That's his entire bio.
I wear all black, I smoke cigarettes, and I don't want anyone to touch me.
You give out handy J's at the dance?
I would say she
in
definitely...
more places than just the dance.
She definitely wants to be touched. 'Cause
I mean, with express permission. Like, earlier in the
Yes.
movie, she's like, do you want me to suck your dick? I'm not going to suck your dick. And then she fucks him.
Right.
She's got a lot going on, this girl.
And I appreciate that. She's my favorite.
I mean, no, but I feel like, though, when they reveal that Tim is her brother and, like, she has her one moment of, like, you know, oh, he's probably dead, like, you know, like, why didn't you find it? Because her dad's the cop also. I don't know if that we
I did not
mentioned
say that, no.
Okay. But also, though, because he dies in this movie, she's really fucked by the end of this movie. And they don't return to her.
No.
Yeah. I don't like that. That makes me mad.
I agree.
That brought my score down in this movie a lot because this is not me about me being a grumpy old man. This is about me being a total Pollyanna.
I don't know what that means.
I just have a lot of feelings. I wish we could all bake a cake made of hugs and get together and just sing it out.
Oh my God, you don't even go here.
I don't. I don't.
You host a queer horror podcast.
And I am frustrated a lot. No, I'm happy with characters to suffer and do stuff in horror films, fine. But when a character is introduced for no reason than for us to watch them suffer, and the sum conclusion, whether intentional or accidental, is that they just get to suffer a whole lot more, that makes me furious. And I know that Mia is like a fourth tier character in this movie, but we meet a girl who is already fucked up because her brother is missing, presumed dead. And by the end of the movie, her dad's dead, and she gets no reprieve whatsoever.
It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. Had we even gotten a scene of her finding out that her dad was dead, I don't mind the fact that she's still suffering. I mean, obviously, I feel bad for her. Like, I don't want her to suffer, even though I don't know her that well as a character. But yeah, the fact that, you know, she is introduced, she is a pseudo-major player in the game, like a major supporting character, but we don't return to her after the twist of her character is revealed. And that's exactly what it's treated as. Like the Tim reveal is a twist, and then it's like the movie's done with her after that. So that does bother me, but not the purpose of her character. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I think the ending is challenging in part because I think Byrne wants to end on a bit of an uplifting note, so he doesn't want to have the Debbie Downer of like, oh, this sad girl is going to be even more sad. But I think you're both right that it doesn't entirely satisfy, and it kind of cheapens. It makes the twist feel a bit cheap as a result.
Well, when it happened, I liked it. I was like, oh, like that's Cool. That explains why she is the way she is. Neat.
So I do have multiple explanations for why I think this film, or why this subplot is in this film.
Okay.
Because I know that a lot of people on the first time watch, particularly early on, they're like, what the fuck are these other scenes doing in here? They have...
No,
because you keep waiting for the stories to interconnect, right? Because that's how Hollywood story typically works.
And Sean Byrne says, fuck you, Hollywood. I'm making my own movie.
More or less, yeah. So I think there's... Feel free to interject at any point here. I think there's like 3 different reasons why this storyline exists. The first one is like an ironic juxtaposition to the different types of dances / proms that are going on. So you've got Brent's like total shit, horrible one that's like filled with torture and trauma. And then you've got this other one, which is kind of like regular people being a little bit sad, trying to connect, going to the dance, not having the best of time. But it's like, that's what regular adolescent life is. So it's like, look at these 2 different versions of the same kind of evening.
I can see that.
So that's one
I like
version.
that.
See, I liked that because we find out later what the twist is, that her brother is missing / dead. I like that it gave her more of a character development instead of just being the random angry goth girl. Like, you understand her more, so she has a reason to be that way. Because they could have just made her the angry goth girl for no fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, that the same thing with her brother. He could have just been some random dude in the road that had no connection to anything.
That's interesting, though, too, is because Mia and Brent never come face to face, but her brother is the reason his dad is dead. Yeah. So that could have also been an interesting avenue to explore that the movie doesn't. And I get, like, how are you going to organically bring these 2 characters together, like, given what the movie is? But it still would have been nice.
Well, I do think, actually, Charles, that's one of the reasons that I think it exists, is this idea that the impact of Lola and Daddy's crime spree has this far-reaching implications out into the community. So even though you don't get the payoff of her finding out about her brother, finding out about her father, finding out about anything to do with this, you get this sense that Lola and Daddy's crimes are not this isolated thing, because they seem to just be happening in this one isolated house in the middle of buttfuck nowhere outside Melbourne. And I think this other storyline is to suggest that, like, there's a bunch of like ripple effects that have fucked up this entire community, and they don't even know the reason why they're messed up. But like, here's, you're seeing immediate trauma happening to Brent, but there's actually other people who have been hurt, like
residual trauma.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I kind of like that because, normally in a horror movie or any kind of movie in which there are serial killers or serial crimes, the impact of their previous crimes that happened before the film takes place are just represented by like a bunch of missing posters.
Yeah. Newspaper headlines.
Yeah. For this to have tangible real world effects on the entire film universe, I dig that.
And the reality is that sometimes people don't find out what happened, or they don't get any kind of satisfaction. So it's a little more Debbie Downer, but it's kind of true to life in that way.
Well, this movie is nothing if not efficient. It makes good use. Like, I don't think there's a wasted minute in the 79-minute runtime. Although, again, Christopher, your mileage may vary with those scenes with Jamie and Mia. But I'm never one to say, oh, I want that movie to be longer, but I actually could have done with a longer movie exploring more of that. But again, that's not the movie Byrne's wanting to tell. He's wanting to tell the story of Brent with these bits, like glimpses of, yes, Joe, like you said, like how this murder spree affects certain members of the community.
I also think it's interesting that, like, when they cut to the scenes with Jamie and Mia, because Jamie is Brent's best friend, he never really kind of wonders why he's not at the dance.
Yeah.
But also, I was expecting Jamie, because he's his best friend, to be like the savior, to come and get everything. Because that happens a lot in movies.
But that's a bit of a subversion, right?
No, yeah, and I appreciated that.
Part of it is that, like, Jamie is such an asshole. Like, even his introduction is all about, like, how he's going to get laid. Even though his obviously, like, suicidal best friend is not doing well directly in front of him. And he's like, I'm totally going to go fuck that chick tonight. You're like, wow, you're great. You're a bit of an asshole. Which is my third and final reason why I think the storyline exists. This one's dark, folks.
Okay.
I'm not going to claim credit for this. This is from my writing partner, Valeska Griffith. She, in her review of this film, she suggests that part of the juxtaposition function of this storyline is to show that there are villains hiding in plain sight, and that Jamie, with or without really acknowledging it, is a bit of a sexual predator, because the whole introduction to Mia's scenes is that she's drinking heavily, she's smoking up, she's totally fucked up. So by the time that they have sex, she actually is unable to give consent. So Jamie is a rapist bad guy, if you want to look at it seriously. So Lola is kind of like, she's a more homicidal version of the same kind of like villain hiding in plain sight that Jamie is.
So you could argue that the sheer horror, the movie style ramped up menace of Lola is just something that women face every single day.
Yeah.
It's
like
horrifying,
super fucking grim.
It is. And I tell you what, as often happens with movies that I come out of being annoyed by, upon reflection and reading and talking about it, I tend to soften my view. Because as I said at the beginning of the episode, I was annoyed by this. And one of my biggest annoyances was everything Jamie and Mia. And there was the one scene where they are having sex in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a shot of Daddy come out of his house and walk.
Yeah,
just
and
out
you
of his house
think
and
that
walk
the
away.
car is in his front yard.
Yeah, because then someone walks up to the car, knocks on the door, on the window. No, it's just the school principal because they're still in the car park. And at that moment, I was like, have I watched 30 minutes of these two fuckwits simply to get a false horror twist, like a fake jump scare? Get fucked. I was so mad. But all this stuff is like, oh, okay, maybe there was a reason for it and I shouldn't fly off the handle quite so quickly.
I mean, I'll confess, I don't know that it entirely works, even though I've given 3 different versions for why it's okay that it's in there. But I think part of it is that as audiences who are jaded and have been raised primarily on Hollywood horror films, the fact that it doesn't pay off in that more traditional sense, I think is why so many people are like, "Gah, this is a bit of like dead weight." Because it also means we're not spending time with Lola and Brent, and those are like the fucking stars of the show, right?
Yeah.
Well,
like, we want more time with Lola.
you have an hour of, actually less than an hour, 55 minutes of time with the Lola kidnapping plot. So I mean, it's so funny because it doesn't seem like there's that. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of screen time for them, but there. I mean, it feels long. I think just because of all the torture that's going on there.
Yeah. Well, they really make the best of the time. I also applaud this idea that this is a narrative that takes place over a couple of hours. It's not like she's torturing him for weeks and stuff. Like, this is condensed, it's efficient, and the fact that he is able to survive it at all is kind of miraculous, but at least it's not like, oh god, he would not be able to survive this. It's like, well, he endures it for a couple of hours, and then...
I did want to go back, though, because like you mentioned that, Mia couldn't, by that point, she couldn't give consent. She does tell Jamie to fuck her. Now, granted,
no,
she's
Trace,
wasted.
Come on. This is not how consent works. People who are high or drunk cannot
Okay,
give
gotcha.
consent.
You're right. Sorry. I'm going to edit that out.
No, keep it in. It's important. Because that's one of the excuses that people will often say is that it's like, oh, well, she or he wanted it. And it's like, yeah, but if they're fucked off of their tree, then it doesn't matter what they're actually saying. They're not in their right mind to be able to give consent. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, Christopher, so what else annoyed you in this movie? Because I feel like we should just tackle those things before we get into, like, Lola. Unless Lola annoyed you.
God, no.
Queer
Look,
icon Lola? The main reason we're covering this movie? No one can be offended. Revoke the gay cards if you're offended by her.
No, and Robert McLeavy, what a dark horse, because as I emailed you a couple of weeks ago, not both, what's the 3 version of both? Trith Xavier Samuel. Just go with it. Just write it out. Yeah. Robert McLeavy, Richard Wilson, and whoever plays Holly, Victoria Thane, are the 3 main cast members of another Australian movie called 48 Shades, which is based on a young adult novel, one of my very favorite young adult novel called 48 Shades of Brown.
Did that come out after 50 Shades of Grey?
No, it's before.
It's before.
Oh.
And it has nothing to do with BDSM.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, okay.
And so in it, Rich Wilson, Jamie, plays this awkward Michael Cera type, and Robin McLeavy is his barely older than him aunt, like only 3 years older than him, but then looks after him when his parents fuck off to Switzerland, and awkward teenage YA stuff comes out. It's very funny. It's very low key. There's not a lot of high stakes. The 48 Shades of Brown relates to him trying to make conversation with the girl he likes, played by Victoria Thane, and it's trivia, and it's a thing he's learned that there are 48 different shades of brown.
Oh God, he does sound like Michael Cera, doesn't he?
Yeah, but Robin McLeavy, from my reading of the book, because I loved the book so much, and also, sidebar, happened to star in a play adaptation of same. No big deal. I don't want to talk about it.
I know, nice plug.
Please don't bring attention to it.
Please don't watch it on YouTube.
I was very attached to it, and she did not sell cool, chill, effortlessly chic aunt. She just didn't. And so when she's in this, I'm like, okay, let's see what you're doing. And she just kills it.
Literally.
Yeah. She is phenomenal. Even when that character gets a little bit over OTT, which is why we're talking about it, because it's camp as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
She's just so wonderful.
I was mesmerized by her every time she spoke. She makes sometimes like the most inane lines compelling. Half of my notes are literally just her lines.
Yeah, and some of the things that annoyed me are things that she saved. Like, there is a thing... See, Australian cinema can be a little bit of a very small industry, and so we don't get 100 opportunities a year to make a movie or to tell a story. And I think when we do, we get a bit like a kid at a dessert buffet. Like, I'm going to include everything, which is why this teen slasher film or stalker film is also about grief, and also a little bit about incest, and also about cannibalism, and also about lobotomies. Like, it's all these things just shoved into the one movie. That kind of annoyed me.
Really?
A little bit.
It is a bit of a kitchen sink approach.
Well, I like the kitchen sink approach. I think it's so bonkers and nuts that I'm like, all right, you got me. I'm into it.
And that's why I also claim there's an element of cultural cringe, because if this was a movie made in another country, I'd be like, oh, this movie's bonkers. I love it. But because it's particularly Australian, I'm like, oh, God, they're doing that Australian thing.
Do you think they're making a commentary on Australians as a whole?
No, God, I hope not. No, I think it's just a side effect of Australian cinema being such a small industry and being we're so starved to make a movie that when we get to make one, we're like, I'm going to make a movie about everything.
That sounded like a jackass sound to you.
Yeah, like a coming sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we go any further, I'm going to define cultural cringe, because it was actually part of the reason that I wanted to bring up around the bad box office that the film had in Australia. So I read an interesting, mildly academic piece called Australian Horror Movies and the American Market by Mark David Ryan. And he actually cites cultural cringe as one of the reasons why Australian horror films do not do well in Australia. So cultural cringe is a term that was coined by a literary critic Australian named Arthur Phillips in 1950, and it's associated with a cringing embarrassment towards the Australian accent, syntax, and vocabulary, as well as the feeling that Australian cinema is mundane and found wanting compared to US films, and that local audiences devalue local films as inferior or debased.
And not in just it's not very good. The cringe part is integral, because you see our own artistic content and go, oh God.
Yeah, like it's so fucking Australian.
Oh God, yeah.
Do you think that's specific to movies? Because I feel like a lot of Australians really love like television that comes out from their country, but not necessarily movies.
It is more specific to movies. It tends to have a bleed-in effect to all of culture.
But I think it's also especially prevalent in things like genre. So like if you go sort of away from the mainstream. So I find, and the reason that this really resonated with me is because Canadians literally have the exact same thing. Like no Canadian wants to watch a Canadian movie when there's a Hollywood film right there. That's a generalization, obviously.
Yeah, it's like you're like have a huge boner for David Cronenberg. Like, Jesus.
No, I'm like the weird, rare person. Well, not really, but there's like most people in Canada have not seen Canadian movies. And I'm imagining that with Australians, it's kind of like, well, why would I see The Loved Ones when I could watch,
Saw? Wait, no, that's also kind of Australian.
But see, Saw is the we got behind Saw because they went over to America to make it. That legitimized it.
This movie, and because Wolf Creek, I'm going into even like American box office and American reception, because this, Wolf Creek, and Rogue, the Greg McLean crocodile movie, they all had issues with American releases. I mean, Wolf Creek got the widest release, but they fucking released it on Christmas, and it didn't make any money.
They tried to do counter-programming, but Australia only embraced Wolf Creek after it was a big heralded release in North America.
And interestingly enough, though, John Jarratt, who plays the killer in Wolf Creek, was offered the role of Daddy in this movie, but he turned it down because he didn't want to be typecast.
And poor guy, it happened to him anyway.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
He's still playing that fucking role in the TV show.
But yeah, and that's just part of, as much as you try to not be cultural cringy, the entire career in North America of Paul Hogan was a direct swing back from cultural cringe, an attempt to claim it back, to own it. Like, yeah, we're Australian.
Yeah, so Australian.
We talk like this. Yeah.
That's the crocodile hunter, in case people don't know.
Dundee.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
But Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, also part of that.
Mm-hmm. I just can't believe he's confusing Crocodile Dundee and the Crocodile Hunter.
Both crocodile-y.
Well, it's because one is like a fucking farce of the other one, which is a farce on the culture.
Exactly. And so it was an attempt to claim it back, and it worked for a little while, hence Olivia Newton-John. But it's then swung back the other way again. Paul Hogan became emblematic of cultural cringe 2.0 because then, oh god, he's gone too far. And then he got a whole bunch of facelifts. And then we all started to point out that actually, motherfucker, we don't drink Fosters and we don't say shrimp. You fucked it up for all of us. So then it swung back again. And this is a thing we have battled with ever since.
Yeah. I'll never forget when I arrived in Australia, I got like a talking point of things from my Canadian boss who had already been living there for a while. And she was like, do not mention Fosters. Do not mention shrimp on the Barbie. Like, you will immediately be identified as a fucking idiot and you will be ostracized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because I had the pleasure of living there for almost a year and a half. So,
where did you live?
I lived in Newcastle, which is a couple hours north of Sydney for other people. You probably know. Although you were West Coast?
No, I'm East. I
Okay.
was born and raised in Brisbane. I lived in Canberra for a while, which, for people who don't know, is Australia's Washington, D.C. And fun fact, the two are identical in terms of overall feel. I lived in Sydney for 10 days.
Oh.
That was 9 days too long. And then Melbourne. So all East Coast.
Okay. So this movie was shot apparently just outside of Melbourne.
Yeah, in a town called... Is it a town or a suburb? I'm actually not sure. It's Kyneton.
I don't know. I only ever stuck downtown when I went to Melbourne for the coffee.
Well, this is all fascinating. But...
Sorry. We'll reminisce later.
Sorry. Yeah, I talk about cultural cringe and then happily talk dully about Australia for a good 10 minutes.
It just sounds like your podcast.
And Charles is over there in the corner like...
I was going to say, like,
I'm
Charles,
not talking.
Charles, we haven't heard from you in a while. Shut the old people up and pipe in with something.
No, I mean, I don't really know much about Australia. Usually there's one point in every episode where I ask Chris something about Australia based on the movie. But this one specifically, I'm assuming that you guys definitely have like
KFCs?
KFC. Don't get him started on fucking KFC in Australia versus America. Oh my God.
Oh, no.
You don't have chips in your KFCs. What the fuck?
We have potato wedges. I'm sorry. They suck.
They're different. They're horrible.
They're terrible. But would you, like, when you do that, is it closer to, like, how Americans do prom? And is there a king and a queen? Because I know that in Britain, people think that proms are weird, but they've recently started to like have that be a thing over there, and it's a really big part of American high school culture.
Yeah, no, not at all. And let me completely hypocritically pivot from dunking on Australia to dunking on American marketing for Australian films. Because the American trailer, which is the only trailer available on Amazon Prime, if that's where you're getting your movie from, dubs in the word prom where no such word exists in the movie itself. It's just a school dance.
Right.
And we have school dances. We have them several times a year. They're not seasonal. They're just held at times. We have an end of year formal, but it's called a formal, and the dress is much more formal. But just a regular dress-up school dance is a random event. Not only did the trailer dub in the word prom, but in the admittedly very funny scene where Jamie tries to do a butt slide over the bonnet of the car, they reversed that. They flipped the footage around so it looked like he was getting out of an American car.
Oh, that's dumb.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't either.
Why would you even try to hide this? Like, the
Why
minute you
bother?
start playing it, it's pretty fucking Australian.
Especially because he's a 17-year-old and because he's in Australia, he's a P-plater. He's got his
Yes.
provisional license and there's a giant P on the windscreen.
Okay, so now you have to describe what P plates are because no one will understand that.
When you first guess first and I'll correct you.
Like P plate.
So there's a little image in everybody's window. Like every single teenager that you see driving has a little P in their windshield. So they're called P plates.
It's provisional. You've got your provisional license.
Oh, we have that here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a form of integrated driving. So it basically means that none of these people should be driving out late. They shouldn't be driving on the highway.
They're not allowed to have any blood alcohol.
Yeah, which means like Jamie's fucked.
And there are some certain speed limits too, which sucks for the rest of the drivers.
Yeah. But it plays into this movie in a really important way because that's why Brent is driving with his father at the beginning of the movie, is because he doesn't know how to drive and he's either trying to get his P plates or he already has it and he's trying to ace his driving exam. So
if he's at that stage where he's trying to learn, he's still on his L plates.
Oh my god, this is so confusing.
What does the P stand for?
Provisional.
Oh, right, because I just went to water sports.
Well, no, I was literally like, is it like a protective barrier in a urinal? Like, is that what it
no, it's so that when you pee in your car, you don't splash against the windshield.
Right.
When you pee in terror because you're not good at driving.
Well, it's funny because in Australia, like when people see a P plate, they like, it's the way that like that horribly racist adage in the US goes where it's like, oh, if you see an Asian driver, like get the fuck out of the way because they're going to kill you. But in Australia, because they're also quite racist and also ageist and weird and all these other things.
Correct.
Whenever they see P plates, it's like, oh fuck, if that person is on the road, get away because they will murder you with their car because they can't drive for shit.
And then they did in this movie.
Yeah. So he's really just, strengthening that idea, that stereotype.
Yeah, thanks for the stereotypes, Brent.
So, what do y'all think of Xavier Samuel in this movie? Because I gotta say, I love him, and I think he's gorgeous. I hate that he has long hair in this movie, because it makes him very unattractive. But
it's like, who had long hair as a comment that Trace would...
Me. I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm fucking saying it again. But no, I love him, and I actually think that given that he doesn't speak for most of this movie, gets a very good performance in there, especially when it's compared to Lola.
Hundo. Absolutely. At the beginning of the movie, I was like, ugh, okay, he's letting his hair do the acting.
Yeah.
And my notes for the first 10 minutes were just like, get your hand off it. I get it. You're very sad. This is overdone. But no, he turns it out.
Okay, wait. wait. So you're annoyed by his grief porn, but you wanted more stuff for Mia. Because you weren't annoyed by, like, you wanted more development for her.
Yeah, well, yes.
Charles, is he normally this contrary?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, that's not contrary. Brent gets, for better or for worse, a somewhat happy ending.
Yeah, that's true. That's
kind
true.
of.
Sort of.
Mia just gets a...
I mean, he'll never be able to walk again, but... Yeah, sort of happy ending.
Ooh.
That was when I was like, oh, that's good acting. When he gets those knives shoved into his feet and Lola's just like sitting on his lap like a fucking sadist, being like, cry for me. cry for me, cry for me.
Yeah.
And he's just like not screaming.
It's like Passion of the Christ level. I actually think that the knives in the feet were more difficult for me to watch than the drill in the forehead.
Same. I can't. When it comes to horror movies, you can do almost anything to anyone in a horror movie, but if it involves like cutting off fingers or toes or feet, I can't do that. It freaks me out. It takes me to a place that I'm like, oh no, I literally, it's the only time in movies I cover my eyes.
Yeah.
What about eye stuff, Charles?
Also eye stuff.
Yeah.
Like in Hostel, no thank you.
The eye stuff is like the big thing for me. Usually I don't have a problem with feet unless it's Achilles tendons. I don't like seeing those get
See,
cut.
that's weird. That doesn't bother me.
See,
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
It's eyes and fingernails for me, but I think it's because he's like hammering the knives into
And it
his
goes
feet.
on.
It goes on. Yeah. It is prolonged sequences of violence in this movie. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an overtly gory film, but it's like the violence hits hard.
Well, it's funny because if you read US reviews, the number of films that will say that this movie is aping Hostel and that it's part of the torture porn cycle that's happening, which is like not even correct because this is 2009 and Hostel is 2004.
Well, but most reviews are going to be coming out in America in 2012.
Yeah, it's just like by that point the torture porn cycle is completely over. We're well into J horror, so it's like, oh, there's some extended graphic horror, which is kind of on par with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if we're being honest, but everybody is like so fucking lazy in their descriptions that they're basically just saying it's torture porn.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff that I read about this movie said that it was like Texas Chainsaw meets like The Prom, essentially.
Oh God,
So original.
Wow.
that is fucking lazy. That is
It
bad
is, and-
writing.
Even as you guys just said, it's not gory, it's confronting, it's uncomfortable, it is disturbing and violent, which is more a testament to the way it's shot and edited together than it is to the
Yeah,
fake blood.
absolutely.
And that's where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre comparison, though, would be apt, because that movie, which has very, very little blood in it, people always remember it being very gory because it's so uncomfortable to watch. Now, this one, granted, of course, does have a lot more blood than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think that you'll walk away from it remembering more gore than what's actually on screen.
Yeah, and a lot of the torture that specifically happens to Brent happens off screen, and you see the aftermath of it.
Yeah. I think the other reason that Texas Chainsaw comes up is because he's seated at a table and he has to endure this dinner sequence.
Right.
That makes sense. I didn't even think about that.
It's definitely an influence, I would say, but it's not.
It's lazy film criticism, you know? And
Yeah.
I mean, I've been guilty of it too. It's like, oh, it's like this meets this, with a sprinkling of this. I mean, but that's also just a lazy way to describe a movie, and I fully admit it.
There's a difference between using shorthand to get people on board with what the movie's about if they haven't necessarily seen it.
And missing the point.
And missing the point, yeah. And watching the movie as a reviewer and going, oh, this reminds me of a scene in blah movie. This is exactly like blah movie. Like that's not A to B. That's A to fucking J.
Yeah. Because this movie does have very obvious horror homages. And so I got Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I got People Under the Stairs. I got The Descent when he's climbing up the mountain of bones. And then, of course, there's Wolf Creek when you've got Lola on the road hunting people down and getting run over by cars and that kind of stuff.
Okay. I want to talk about that.
Shall we go into that and then we'll backtrack and talk about Lola more generally?
Yeah. Because I also want to talk about the comedy in the film and whether it works for you guys or not. And we're already at the hour mark, and I don't want to belabor the point too much.
So talk to us about the end, Trace.
I am so fucking robbed that we don't see this bitch die. It makes me so mad.
Oh my God.
All we get the great shot of her crawling down the road and her wrist bone is popped out.
Oh, it's my favorite.
And then we get the close-up of her face for a good 20 seconds. And then it's like a split-second shot of just the car hits her head and then it cuts away.
So you wanted a full-on tire going over head crushing kind of moment?
Yes, I felt like we were owed that.
Did you not interpolate, or is it extrapolate, one of the polates the data of that last shot and assume her head was snapped back and taken clean off her body?
Oh no, he wanted to see it. That's his complaint.
You want to see it bouncing back down the road towards Kyneton.
Yeah, no, I mean, or just like literally like crushed under this car. I mean, also, I just feel like as much torture we've watched Brent go through, it's only fair. Like, and I guess we kind of get it with Daddy because the neck stabbing with Daddy is pretty.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But arguably, the reason we don't see it is because we don't, as we just said, we don't really see any of the violence in this movie. Like, maybe you wanted to see more of the aftermath?
I'm a big proponent of seeing villains die.
No, but on that point, I definitely agree with you. I think because of how menacing she was and how much torture she inflicted, I could have stood for a bit more comeuppance coming her way.
Yeah.
I totally understand that point of wanting to see her. Well, I'm going to say suffer, which will have people accusing me of being contrary again, but I'm not. It's comeuppance. It's justice.
Yeah. No. It's not like you're advocating for violence against women. Just this woman.
Right. When she attacks Holly,
Yes.
and the whole time that all I wanted was like, I'm like, kick her.
Which she does. She kicks her in the face, and that's pretty boss.
I think it's too because like not that I expected her to learn a lesson, because literally to her dying breath, she is crawling trying to get to him. And she's insane. Yes. Like, I totally get it. So it's because we're not going to get this like moment of like, you know, her learning her lesson or them being like, you stupid cunt, like, I'm going to stab you in the face. Like, I would at least just like to have that moment of violence.
Yeah. But it's not the end of Death Proof, right? Like, we're not going to get that kind of catharsis. Like, at this point, the film is really already over. Although I do wonder, and I'm interested to hear what all of you think, do you feel like this ending is a bit rushed?
Yes.
Like, is it just because we get more prolonged torture sequences and then the ending is really just kind of quick? Like, is that maybe one of the reasons why it doesn't feel quite as satisfying, because it doesn't feel like it's on par with what we've seen Brent go through?
I think maybe. I think when she was crawling along the road, by that point I was like, okay, I'm ready for her to be killed now. So in that respect, I was ready for the movie, or at least the story, to end. But I think, we get to the credits a bit quickly, in some part because of Jamie and Mia and other characters who have not yet had their conclusions.
Yeah.
Which we never get anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
But
that's because Byrne is just wanting to tell you Brent's story. It is only about him, which I get, and for the sake of expediency, it works. But again, like if you have connected with the other characters, and I actually quite liked Holly. I wish she had more to do. But yeah, like the movie does rob you of those moments with those side characters.
See, I think the ending where you just watch for a good, 15, 20 seconds, the slow motion of her watching the car come back towards her, and then that split second of just watching her head snap that you don't really see because it happens too fast. I thought that was a really interesting ending for her. And I didn't really need more gore because I know that she's dead.
Yeah.
But it was really nice not really watching her go, oh, fuck, I'm dying, but kind of going, all right, I'm going to die. Like, they're going to hit me with this car. And that's just watching her face slowly twist into that expression.
Yeah.
Was all I needed.
I wonder if the intention was because of the way it's edited, if it was meant to be comic relief. Like, was it supposed to be funny?
I think so. Like, she's so ridiculous crawling down the road. Like, that moment you think when she gets hit by the car, I remember the first time I saw it, I definitely thought that she was dead. And that was just going to be it. So when you still see her slowly making her way down with the knife, you're just like, this bitch is crazy.
Was it before they reveal her crawling down the road, which I need that as a gif for something. I'm not sure what yet, but I need it.
It's that long shot, though, of like, you know, the car on the left side of the screen and her on the right side of the screen, and she's just like dragging herself with the knife.
Well, I thought we were almost going to get sequel bait because I looked at the back of the road and I was like, where is she? But like, where? Her body has to be somewhere. And then I thought that she was just going to be gone and they were going to be like hugging in the car and that was going to be the end of it. So after thinking that for a split second and then seeing her fantastically crawl down the road, I was like, oh, okay. And then she died. I was like, we get a nice clean ending. If anything, we would get a prequel, not a sequel.
Yeah.
that I would pay for that.
I would too.
Well, because also, yeah, she has 3 boys in the basement, and then the one Timmy that got away. So there's plenty of prequel material. Although Rob McLeavy hasn't exactly gotten younger in 10 years, but still.
No, it'd be interesting to like know how Timmy got out and how come they didn't track him down. Or I'm imagining like a weird Children of the Corn. Oh, it's kind of like Children of the Corn too. Okay.
Huh.
Well, Children of the Corn opens with the original Children of the Corn
Yeah.
opens with them avoiding hitting a boy in the middle of the road.
Who escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the opening of this movie also kind of does the Texas Chainsaw Massacre opening, where someone's just randomly in the road.
I mean, yeah, his Byrne's influences are there, but the movie very much like feels like its own thing. You know, it doesn't feel like a ripoff at any time, for me at least.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Is it because Lola is such a distinctly unique character and villain?
Yeah, I mean, have we ever had a character like a villainess like Lola before?
No, but I think we've had a lot who've tried.
Yeah.
I mean, my closest comparison would be like, it was like Misery, like Kathy Bates.
Mm-hmm.
But never like a crazy... I mean, I think part of what makes Lola such a queer icon is the fact that unlike... I can't even remember the character's name from Misery.
Annie Wilkes.
Thank you, Annie Wilkes. Unlike Annie Wilkes, Lola's young and she's actually pretty and she's passable in terms of the way that she can function within society.
Kathy Bates is listening to this going, fuck you, Joe.
Kathy Bates at me.
The only woman that I would compare her to in horror tone-wise would be May from May.
Oh.
I could see that. I mean, I think May is more of a tragic story because I really feel for May. Whereas with Lola, I don't.
But they both have very sort of detailed, imaginative interior lives, right? Where what's happening on the inside is clearly affecting the way that they're interacting with the outside world, but it's not in a good way.
Well, so do you think this is a nature versus nurture or a nurture thing for Lola? Because, I mean, let's go into her home life. Let's go into her family because her mother is lobotomized.
And she's obviously jealous of her mom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think that she was just born nutso or did this incestuous... Well, because her and her dad hadn't had sex because she has that moment when they're dancing when she finally says, oh, you're my king. Like, it's always been you. I've been trying to find someone and it's always been you. So what is this family?
I think that would have been, had they not been interrupted, the very beginning of an incestuous relationship. I don't think it existed before then because I think the very clear... What's his name who played Daddy? Brumpton.
John Brumpton, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did a very, very good job of making it clear in that scene early in the film where he's watching her put her party dress on.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
That he is into it. He is desperately into it, but he knows it's wrong and is trying so hard to reel it in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at least what I got from it. But the interrogating Lola's childhood, her backstory, is where I do actually feel for her a little bit, because it's one thing to have this 17-year-old girl who is a complete psycho and is going to lobotomize and essentially kill the boy she is attracted to, but you find out she's been doing this her entire life. Like, she never had a chance to be a regular person.
Oh, see, that's interesting because I read her as the person who's doing this and her dad is going along with it.
Oh.
And then it kind of, her mother's story, I want to know more about that. Like, how, when, and why was she lobotomized? Was it done by Lola?
Well, we know that it wasn't physically done by
right.
her because it's the first drilling. But
This is her first time, yeah.
I think she made Daddy do it because she was jealous of the affection between the two of them. Which is why she has no issue smothering her mother the minute that her dad is dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, then maybe I take it all
Because
back.
it's the Electra complex, right? Like, she's in love with her
Yeah.
father and resentful of her mother. And she basically just seeks to replicate that same relationship, which is why she's constantly searching for her king.
And then for as long as this all could have been happening, has her mother been lobotomized the whole time, or was she complicit in what was happening until Lola got too jealous?
Oh, gosh. Who knows?
It's a very old wound. I'd say lobotomized the whole time.
Yeah, I wonder if they started with her, and then it was like, all right, let's see if we can find me a boy.
I definitely do want to know how they came up with their method of lobotomization
Oh my
because
God.
the boiling water. Because first, oh god, like I
So I had forgotten about the boiling water, and I was watching this. So Charles and Chris, you wouldn't know this, but my husband does not enjoy horror movies at all.
You made him watch this one too?
He was like partially watching, and then
I think that's all he does. He partially
watches all of them, yes. But the minute that we got to that scene, he once again. So we had just watched Audition a couple weeks ago, and then for this one, he was like, "No, seriously, what the fuck are you watching?"
That was like, besides the feet, was probably the most uncomfortable part of the movie for me, because I was like, "But one, is that a thing? I mean, boiling water in someone's head is definitely going to fuck up their brain.
And you're going to burn their
from?
face, too, because the water's going to fall down their face. That's what I kept thinking. Like, fuck the brain, but, like, your face is fucked.
Well, I think you're meant to tilt them back and then slowly pour into the hole, which is why the hole needs to be big enough. And don't ask me why I've thought about this.
No, this is a thing I had to confront within myself as well, because my watching that scene went... in the following order. I went, oh, this is hard to watch. Oh, no, it's disgusting. Oh, I'm really freaked. Oh, it's gross.
How would this
I don't
work?
like it. Oh, wait, why don't you get a funnel? Just get a funnel.
Yeah, I was like, get a funnel.
You'll be good to go.
But
and then I was like, oh no.
I love the moment though when she's trying to do it and then she goes, "Daddy, can you make the hole bigger?" That was my attempt at an Australian accent. I'm sorry, but I love how childlike she is, and even though their relationship is disgusting, it's so, like, cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, she's so cute.
She keeps those balls in the air the whole time of being menacing, sexual, and so childlike, and then not in a way that's Lolita-y.
Also, who among us hasn't said, "Daddy, can you make the hole bigger?"
Oh, there it is. Well done, Charles.
Wow.
So that's your gayest bit of dialogue, is what you're saying?
I guess so.
The amount of times that "daddy," just the word itself, is said in this movie is a complete brand infringement of me. It's upsetting and not fair.
But I think using "daddy" is like a very non-American thing. Like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Brits and Australians and New Zealanders, I feel like "daddy's" more common to say, like in like a serious way, not in like a sexual way.
Fully, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't make that argument now in 2019. It's swung back via America into gay lexicon, but you're absolutely correct. I think it held a more innocent connotation for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but watching it through 2019, it's very kinky.
Mm-hmm.
I think "daddy" in America, like calling your father daddy, is a little bit more prevalent in the South, I would say.
Well, I think also for younger...
No, because I'm in Texas.
Well, not like Texas, like Georgia, North Carolina, like that part of the South.
Oh, maybe. Georgians, South Carolinians, if you're out there, let us know.
Yes. Do you call your father daddy? Will you drink mint juleps?
Yeah.
All I know is that Blanche Devereaux calls her father Big Daddy, which
there we go.
Is one step even further.
There you go.
But it definitely suggests a certain amount of infantilization, right? Like, she's emotionally stunted to a certain degree as well. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting to watch this in 2019 and be like, oh, the daddy stuff just kind of even makes it more sexual now as a result.
Yeah.
I guess I can see y'all's point, though, where it does add a certain level of sympathy for Lola, because obviously, like her dad's nuts, but I still think she's a huge cunt. I don't like her. I mean, I like her.
For sure.
I like her, but I don't like her, if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, to talk on the infantilization, one thing I did notice when she put on... No, not when she put on a party dress, but that party dress she's wearing, she's worn the exact same one every year in different sizes, because one of the earliest photos, she's wearing the exact same dress as a small girl.
Oh, yes. That is so weird.
I do think, too, that the movie handles escalation very well, because it's like just like, one more thing, but like slightly more insane, like happens one after the other. And it kind of culminates in the reveal of what's in the basement. And I liked your comparison to The Descent, Joe, but so does that work for y'all, the zombie boyfriends in the basement?
I think it does. That's the very first thing that I thought of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
They're obviously not blind and they've been lobotomized with boiling water poured in their head. I still think that would definitely kill you. But yeah,
probably.
I mean the way that they're shot, they're made to look like these creatures that just live in the dark, and they're very skinny and malnutritioned. That's not a word.
I do like that. She feeds them. Is it a possum? I think it's a possum.
That's a possum.
Okay.
Yeah.
When she picks it up on the side of the road, I love that shot because it's the shot of the possum, and then like the car drives by, then it stops, and it rolls backwards. Hand comes out, grabs the possum.
Yep. Poor possum was just sleeping.
I like the idea too, not to try to read too much of a national cinema vibe into this, but I thought it was interesting that the film incorporates this traditional Australian horror theme of like horror happening on the outskirts of civilization, like out in the backwoods. Like, even though Lola obviously goes to a school in a metropolis because that's where we see all the other characters who live, they live in this like kind of shack out in the middle of nowhere that's deserted, and it's kind of like the dark farm or something equivalent.
Well, that's embedded. That's real in Australia. You know, obviously Wolf Creek was heavily influenced by the backpacker murderer, but I know from personal experience there are stretches of road, because we traveled a lot when I was a kid. We moved around a lot. There are stretches of highway up in Queensland where Mum just would not stop for anything. She would make sure that the petrol tank was full before we hit that particular stretch of scary highway, and she would floor it until we were past it, because it was just... She would never give details because I was a kid, but it was just known that you do not stop for anybody, you do not stop for anything, you just drive like the Dickens until you're out of that particular stretch of barren highway.
Yeah.
So this remote parts of the country are where unspeakable horrors happen. Yeah, that's real. It's part of our psyche.
And right on the like opposite end of that, while Wolf Creek was influenced by a real life crime happened after this movie came out.
Yeah.
Are we waiting to get there until later?
No. I mean, like, so I have the a brief description of it, but basically, in March 2013 at Chester Crown Court, Judge Elgin Edwards described a sadistic torture murder as a reenactment of a scene from this film. During the sentencing, the judge described the defendant, Gary George, as particularly liking the loved ones. I'm assuming he's Australian?
Yes.
The victim, Andrew Nall, was brutally beaten, sustained 49 knife wounds, and had cleaning fluid found in his eyes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 30 years. And it's...
Yikes.
The timing for that is apt. Joe and I just recorded a mini-sode for our Patreon on, like, do horror fans lack empathy? And we actually scheduled it a long time ago, but it just so happened to be recorded, like, right after the two shootings in America. And...
Yeah,
that really goes just towards, again, because people like to blame fucking horror movies and media and video games for violence, like real world violence. And it's just like, God damn it. Like,
yeah, it's always especially frustrating when people then turn around and try to blame movies for their own criminal actions. And I mean, I thought it was very interesting that it was a man who did this to another man, and like their ages, they're well into adulthood. So this idea that you could watch a movie about a 17-year-old girl who is obviously deeply disturbed and think, yeah, I'm gonna do that to a buddy of mine. Like, nice try. That's you being a psycho.
Exactly. And I obviously only know scant details about this, but the way it's framed, the way the judge described it, that to me smacks of an old judge and probably an old defense lawyer possibly grasping at defense strategies, and the judge just going, yes, that's why I don't personally understand these disgusting violent films. That's probably part of it. And it's not really factually solid.
Well, and I think it speaks to the reception that films that have a high level of perceived violence and gore do, right? Like, what kind of animal monster would want to watch this young girl drill a boy in the face? It's like, it's
me.
It's
me.
It's all of us. Like, guess what? None of us are running around murdering people. It's
yeah, because you could not possibly argue that this film presents an incentive to do what Lola's doing. She is presented as an unspeakable villain, one that we all are kind of celebrating now in an ironic camp way, but still, that's because we're gay and we're silly.
Yes, and also because we like to drill boys.
Oh, true.
Well, I was gonna say
Dang.
I love a good face drilling. I mean,
Oh dear.
If a little bit of smoke comes out, you're doing it wrong.
I mean, also, I've read articles where like people who have like, I specifically deal with like a little bit of anxiety, and watching horror movies definitely calms me down. I don't know why. I probably should have read the whole article, but
no, I know. I'm
so
the
much
same.
work.
Like horror. I mean, I think Joe, you said this, like, or you quoted someone saying this, but horror provides a release. It's catharsis. Like when you're watching it, some people they can't. Like, they get too scared that they don't see the release in it, but others, like hopefully all of us, we get that emotional release from watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I go one step further, and I love horror video games. The scarier the game is, the more I like it. If it's so scary to me that I have to press pause to have a bit of a breather, that is the perfect level of relief.
Yeah, it's doing its
Like-
job.
Oh,
That's what it's meant to
yes.
do.
When I was playing the I mean I do horror video games as well, but I think that for me it was when I was doing the VR version of Resident Evil 7, I would like I would
oh, you
literally
are braver than I am.
stand at a door and just stand there staring at it for like a good 5 minutes before walking through.
Yep. Yeah. No, when I played the demo PT, I would do the same thing. Like,
Wait, Joe, do you know what this is?
No, I have no idea.
it was a demo for a game that never got made, but it's part of the Silent Hill franchise, which
Okay.
is
Yes.
notoriously terrifying.
It's called PT, which is a playable trailer. So it's basically it's a trailer for a game, but you can play it.
Oh, that's savvy marketing.
Yeah, it was fucking people lost their shit.
And then it didn't get made?
Yeah, it was going to be Guillermo del Toro, I think, producing it with Norman Reedus starring, and it was revealed after you played the trailer that it was Silent
Yep.
Hill. So you didn't even know while you were playing it, like, what it was. And it's basically, yeah, you go through this hallway, and you have to get to the other end through a door, and basically, once you get to the other end, you re-enter the same hallway. So there's these puzzles you have to do, and like things, like certain motions you have to do, and there's also a ghost lady in the hall with you.
Gosh.
who randomly attacks.
Oh,
you.
it's so scary.
Gosh.
And like the entire franchise of Silent Hill games, you know, you go up to a door because you got to go into a new scary room. If you go to open it and it's locked, every part of you goes, "Oh, thank fuck!"
Why is it locked? What's behind it?
And then you go to the next door. Well, this just means you don't have to go into it. You don't have to be scared.
Oh, yeah.
And then when a door is open, you go, "Oh no, I've got to go in there."
No, yeah. See,
Nice.
anytime I played any of the Silent Hills, whenever the door was locked, I was like, oh, thank God. There's one less room I have to deal with.
You walk in and it's like a safe room, and you're like, thank fuck, I'm just going to sit in here for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
I need to
Life-
find a bootleg version of PT because I never got to play it.
Yeah, so and Joe, that's the other thing too. So when the game was canceled, like a year after it was canceled, it was removed from the store. So if you didn't already have PT downloaded, you cannot
was
access
done.
it
Yeah. Ugh. That
People
sucks.
were like selling their PlayStations on eBay
for
because it
hundreds
had
of
that-
dollars. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I feel like we should continue this discussion sometime about like maybe horror video games or video game adaptations.
Honestly, though, you should go watch YouTube videos. It's not long, so you can go like watch YouTube videos of it. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, I know there's like a diversion, but real life violence in the loved ones.
Yeah, bah. We should probably wrap up. So how about a game, gents?
I'm in.
I'm down.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we are going to crib from Dirty Little Horror in honor of your guest appearance on this episode. So do you two want to explain how this works?
Sure. So every episode, we ask each other whether our pop idols, our respective pop idols, would survive were they plonked into the universe of whatever film we've talked about that week. Mine is Kylie Minogue, and Charles's is Britney Spears.
Okay, and Tracy's...
So I would go...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to know who your pop icons are first.
Okay, so Trace, who did you pick
Who
for
your
this?
queens are.
Okay, so yeah, I was trying to pick between Kesha and Cher, and I think for humor's purposes, I'm gonna go with Cher because Kesha's been through enough.
Fair.
Love it. Love it. I love a well thought out ending. Okay, so I'm going to start easy with Charles. Charles, would Britney survive in this film universe?
I am going to say yes.
Really?
Yes.
Explain.
I love Britney Spears. Like, what's she gonna do though?
No, based on the fact that it seems that the victims are all male, she's going to get out just fine.
Okay.
Unless Lola goes after Sam Ashghari, Britney Spears' new boyfriend, in which case she will murder the fuck out of Britney.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's kind of cheating. She either survives or doesn't. I gave 2 explanations, but
So she survives either way. Yeah.
yeah, unless Lola specifically is looking for Sam Ashghari, Britney survives.
Okay.
Christopher, would Kylie survive?
Yes.
Based on
Home ground advantage.
that's what I thought you were going to say.
And the fact that she's 51 and only one adult. Well, no, two adults. Well, no, three adults. Okay, maybe I need to rethink this. I'd say as an adult who's not an immediate family member or a cop, she is not in any immediate
as long
peril.
as she's not a cop.
As long as she's not a cop. So home ground advantage and being 51 isn't working in her favor.
Yeah, I feel like she knows the backwoods of Australia pretty well. She can escape pretty easily
There we go.
through the
Yeah,
woods.
she's from Melbourne. She knows that area.
Yeah, she's got friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Trace, would Cher survive in this universe?
I'm going to say yes. I think she's going to give Lola a good old slap and...
Snap out of it!
Lola girl, let's just slap out of it, okay? We're going to be good. That was my Cher.
Why does she sound like Nicolas Cage?
Oh, Lola, dark lady laughed and danced.
And if she got knocked into that pit, she could just use a wig to like climb her way back out again.
Well,
a
no,
lasso.
they okay. Oh my, I'm gonna burn it. But they wouldn't be able to find Cher edible because her skin is too leathery.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's like beef jerky.
Wow.
Mean.
I would
Okay.
have said, what parts of Cher are even alive now?
That also works.
Okay.
When Lola tries to drill the first time and it bounces
Oh,
off 'cause
yeah.
she's not holding it hard
Yes.
enough, that would just happen over and over and over on Cher.
Yeah.
That's very taut skin. Joe, who is your queen?
Mine is Madonna.
Would Madonna survive in this film
Okay,
universe?
so I argue that she would, because the Material Girl is always great at like reinventing herself and mentoring up and coming
So
starlets.
she's gonna help Lola. Is what
So
you're
she
saying?
would be like, Lola girl, we need to help update your wardrobe. We need to get you some kind of manager. We need to get you a singing career. So Madonna would just like step in and be like, I'm your new mom.
Yeah.
She actually smothers Bright Eyes first. She's like, let's get rid of this bitch. And
Yeah, she's
I'm
like,
gonna
this
step
crone
right-
hasn't updated her look in a while. We need to do away with her.
And with those yoga arms, she could climb out of that pit, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun. We've never done a game like that before, so that was good.
It was perfect. I loved it.
Okay, well, I think that'll probably wrap up our conversation, the loved one. So before we get into our housekeeping, boys, what would y'all like to plug?
Oh, I guess our podcast?
Oh, right, that thing you have?
Yeah, it's called Dirty Little Horror. I have trouble saying it because of,
Your accent.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
a show that works in
pretty
my
much.
accent, but not Chris's.
But not mine. Because it's very funny when Charles says whore. Yes, it's all, you're very clever, Charles. Dirty little whore. I get it.
Mhm.
I can't say it. Fuck you.
Ah,
Horror.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
The only other thing I'd plug is if you would like to know why I am the way I am, you can find out at ChristopherDoesn'tLiveHereAnymore.com.
Nice.
Okay.
Short blurb, I've moved house over 64 times.
Oh.
And that explains
In 2 weeks, it'll be 65 times,
God.
and I tell a story for every address. So my life was fucked up, y'all.
Believe it.
Jesus.
I don't like moving. It's like my least favorite thing to do.
Ugh.
Okay. Trace?
Well, if you want to reach... Oh, wait. Oh, what are y'all's Twitter handles? Say what your Twitter... Unless you don't want people to follow you.
No, please. Chrisopotamia. It's like Mesopotamia, but with a Chris.
Chris Top Mania.
Everyone thinks it reads Chris Topmania. It does not. It's Chrisopotamia. Fucking...
You two get along well.
My Twitter, yes, we do. We're best friends. My Twitter and my Instagram are both at Charles Rockhill, ROCKHILL. And if you happen to live in or are visiting soon the New York City area, I work at the Stonewall Inn, and I bartend there. You can come say hi.
Yay!
But you have to be very
Ooh,
careful how
yeah.
you order your drink and interact with it.
Yes, you do.
And if you want to know why, you should listen to their fucking podcast.
I will read you
Yeah.
down, bitch.
Well, if you want to reach us on Twitter, you can reach me at Traced Thurman.
And I am at B Stole My Remote. That's the letter B.
And if you're tweeting about the podcast, please be sure to use the hashtag HorrorQueers in your tweets. You can also email us at horrorqueers@gmail.com or check out our Facebook page. If you have 2 seconds, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating. If you have a little bit more time, leave us a review. We got 2 reviews last month, so let's shoot for 3 in August. I don't know. Oh wait, by the time this comes out though, it's the end of August. Let's shoot for 3 for September. If you want even more content, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrorqueers, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes covering recent horror films. Our latest episodes are going to be on 47 Meters Down, Uncaged, and Ready or Not. And you also, of course, get a newsletter on the first of every month letting you know what our schedule is. So, if you sign up today, you can get a newsletter on September 1st letting you know our entire September schedule. Joe, what are we covering next week?
So, we are diving into the canon of Mr. King for the first week of September and the release of It Chapter 2. We're going to be talking about It Chapter 1.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And a mini-sode on Stephen King shit.
No, September's are kind of Stephen King dominated. Yeah, we've got our regular episode on It Chapter 1, our Patreon episode on It Chapter 2, and a Patreon mini-sode on just Stephen King things in general.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Okay, well, I think on that note, we can cross out The Loved Ones.
Yes, and cross out Dirty Little Horror Queers.
That's fair. Harsh but fair.
This episode was brought to you by the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, delivering your weekly horror podcast fix. To find more episodes of this show and others, please visit bloodydisgusting.com/podcast network.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all: would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
Hello, I'm Shelby Scott, the host of Scare You to Sleep, a podcast where I tell you spooky bedtime stories full of creepy sound effects and music that is soothing yet unsettling to help immerse you into a world of horror. This is a show for those of us who have realized horror can be a strange but relaxing escape from reality. Speaking of escapes, sometimes I lead you through guided nightmares, like a guided meditation, but instead of flowery meadows, I take you on a journey through your own personal nightmare. So come get lost in the terror with me. Listen to Scare You to Sleep wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm. Sweet screams.